need to make sure we do the background check again. A little sketchy, a little sketchy. Thought we had standards. The last person to perform tonight for our little group is Lee Oesterle. Someone wake him up real quick. Don't run, Lee. There's a crisis. Staff get paid by the hour.
Lee Oesterle!
Thanks, Ben. And so, as many of you know, Ben has this amazing reputation for being a nice guy. And well-deserved reputation. Just a nice guy. And I have to admit, though, that there's times where it just irritates the shit out of me. So, I've spent my entire professional career taking on the bureaucrats, speaking truth to power, and I know that that can piss some people off sometimes. And so then here comes Ben, taking on the bureaucrats, speaking truth to power, killing it. Killing them with kindness. And I'm like, who knew? So I put him in charge primarily of dealing with our bureaucrat friends. And then speaking of our bureaucrat friends, there are some here tonight. And I want to say thank you for coming. There's one in particular. I was in a meeting a few weeks ago, and it came up that I was performing, and he said to the group, to me, that Oesterle promised not to make fun of me. And I'm like, I don't remember making that promise. And then, remembering who I'm talking to, and then he pointed it out, I was like, no, Oesterle, you do remember that. And I'm like, oh yeah, okay. And so, but I want to thank him for coming back this year. Shows what a good sport he is. And then the bureaucrat, they're just not any regular bureaucrats. And I hate that word because it has a negative connotation, and that's not how I'm using it. And you know, I've been around long enough that I remember when they did actual work. Instead of like going to meetings about the work or sending emails about the work, they did some of that actual work. And I can see them in 5 years, you know, co-chairing a work group on trying to figure out why we haven't been able to change anything in the last 7 years. And so there's another change we made at Kids Crossing is I wanted to take advantage of Ben being this super nice guy. So I put him in charge of handling complaints. And as I don't think it's going to come any surprise to anybody that I may not be the best person to be handling complaints. And there was one recently where a staff member, a young woman employee at Kids Crossing, complained about one of my jokes. And it's the only time that anybody's ever complained about any of my material. And it's the joke where I talk about putting up a flyer in my neighborhood, a big picture of a beautiful cat, and big letters that says "cat found," and then you get up closer, and then you can read, "Thanks, he was delicious." And I thought she was kidding, you know, but she wasn't. She was very upset. And if you could see her, you know, you would not think she was a cat lady. It's okay. I looked it up. Cat ladies are not a protected class. So it's okay that, you know, well, it's legal to make fun of a cat lady or to even discriminate against her. So I fired her. made Ben do it.
She still works here.
She still works here. What I've done in response to her complaint is come up with some new cat jokes. So, have you noticed that, have you ever seen a therapy cat? And I'm not saying cats couldn't, comfort somebody. I'm not saying that, cats couldn't help somebody through a traumatic time. I'm just saying they won't. They're so cute, fuzzy little sociopaths. And, there's therapy dogs. You see them everywhere. Hospitals, courtrooms, airports. And you know what they are because they're vests. Can you imagine putting a vest on a cat? You could be the one that would be in need of an emotional or medical support, perhaps. So, thank you. Thank you, Stephen. Therapy dogs heal PTSD. Therapy cats would cause PTSD. And so, where was I? So you've all heard the saying that we are what we eat, and it doesn't make any sense to me. But I believe that we are what we watch, especially in our formative years. I watched a lot of Looney Tunes back in the day when I was growing up. There's a tremendous influence on me. Bugs Bunny, very sarcastic, didn't take crap off of anybody. Mind you, anybody. And then we had Wile E. Coyote, who got blown up every week, going off cliffs, pianos dropping on him, exploding. Every week he came back for more. The clinical term for that is resilience. And so I've been asked often, how I dealt with all that I've had to deal with in the last 10 or so years. And, it was helpful. He was helpful, what can I say? But, the cartoons were different then, not like today. I'll give you an example. Shh, be very, very quiet. I'm hunting rabbits. That, of course, is Elmer Fudd. A little fat guy with significant anger issues, running around with a shotgun. But not just carrying a shotgun around, but shooting Daffy Duck, Bugs Bunny on a regular basis. You couldn't do that in a cartoon now. And then I'm curious as to what was up with Looney Tunes and speech impediments. I already mentioned, Elmer Fudd. Then you had a Porky Pig with his stutter. And then Sylvester and Stallone. Sylvester and Stallone. I'm going to work on that. Could be something. But Sylvester and Tweety, who always appeared together in cartoons. And Tweety famously, I thought, but he died. I did see him put that. And then there was Sylvester with his puffer and fuckatash. And so, you couldn't have those cartoons today. I looked up Louie. Louie makes Looney Tunes look like they were directed by Quentin Tarantino. So, I think that, as I got older, then I was watching more educationally oriented material. Freshman in the dorm, I would come back after class, round up the guys, and we'd go down to the dorm lounge to do our homework. Just kidding. I'd come back from class, round the guys up, we do a couple bowls, and then we go down to the dorm lounge and watch Sesame Street. And, you know, you just picture it, you know, 10, 12 college guys stoned out of their minds, watching Ernie in his bathtub, singing along with Ernie, feel free. Rubber ducky, he's the one. He shows us all the fun. So, and then, you know you're pretty high when you can't keep up with some Muppet Society. That's kind of sad. And then I remember my first day of algebra class, my freshman year, and being really confused. It's like, since when did numbers start hanging out with letters? Didn't learn that in Sesame Street. And so, and again, many of you may go, well, you know, we watched Sesame Street growing up, but it's not the same Sesame Street. And I can prove that. The Cookie Monster now eats vegetables. So that's pretty sad. So where was I? Oh yeah, Ben making fun of me about being older, and you know, that's okay. It's like, you know, recently he called me out, you know, okay boomer. You know, like that's an insult. You know, come on, Mr. TikTok. Whatever that is. And so, but I'm proud to be an old boomer. One of the happier guys, you know, roaming the earth right now. And I think, you know, many of you that are younger shouldn't be so smug about it. 75, I'm in my early 70s, and 75% of you aren't going to make it into your So look around. If you're at a table of 4, you know, you just don't make it. And I understand if you thought that was due to health issues, health problems, and that's certainly a significant factor. But what's also starting to become a factor is how old boomers are killing the younger ones. When they get yelled at, okay, boomer. So, and you know, and I'm also okay with boomer as a term. You know, there's terms I don't like geezer or, you know, old fogey, silver key, citizen, old fart. Old fart's kind of fun. At least my wife seems to think so. Until I really let one go. So finally, I guess I just want to say that, you know, if any of my jokes offended anyone tonight, I think you can just go, you know, I think you can just go contact Ben. He'll take care of everything.